gonna start off with a drum break because once you have the drums and the tempo right, you can throw like any sample on it. So I'm gonna just go down to like a 1-bar loop, and you can use pad 16 to loop it. I like to zoom in with the zoom tool instead of using my fingers because sometimes it could get a bit sloppy. Using the zoom tool, it's going to snap to the point of the end, and if you have it on start, it's going to snap to the point of the start. So just a quick workflow. And then I could just go to process. Now I just want to go to discard because I'm not going to use the rest of the sample. Press do it. Now as far as the tempo go, it says 179.94. Usually the MPC is good at detecting it. You can just always round it up. So 179.94. I'm pretty sure this sample is definitely bounced out at 90 BPM, which is half of, 180. And if you want better visuals, you could just go to the second page and press divide it by 2, and then we could go back. I could assign this to a pad, and I'm just going to keep it on assign slice to pad, and I'll just pick pad 1. And what that does is going to go to the current program that you're on. Press do it, go back to main. So let's change our tempo to 90. And then we can just press overdub and play start to record. The only thing now, I just want to edit a bit of this drum break because it does got like a very piercing frequency that's in the air kind of range, which is around, 10 to 12K hertz and so on. So I could go in, pull up a pair of EQ. Now, instead of, trying to use the bandwidth and take it out this way, I'm just going to use a high cut and then be steep with it because I really want to take out that airy sound. So with it off. Now, yeah, you're probably thinking we lost a lot of that highs, but we could always bring that back in the mix with our new sound. So now I can go and put like a vintage effect on it. I like to use the MPC 60 on the drums. So with it off. It just gave the drum break more of that body, and it took your focus off of it sounding, a bit muffled with the highs cut. But if we want to enhance our highs back, we could just use an air enhancer, and we could do refresh highs. Turn down the gain. So that sounds good. Probably just turn down the harmonics a bit more. So nice, we got that air back into our drum break and everything is sounding good. Now I just want to check the levels to see where we at. So we're clipping when it does that double kick. So I want to go into our dynamics and pull up a limiter just to control the peaks. I spoke about this in my recent mixing video. Like, you want to tame the peaks so that it's not interfering with your mix. I'm just going to press play and I don't have to do anything. It's going to show the reductions. See right there. So now that our peaks are tame, now I can level it better. And usually when I'm mixing a beat, I like to have my kicks around -9 dB. But for a drum break, you can have it hit a bit higher, like -6. Just keep in mind, the whole goal is just to have headroom so you're not clipping in the master. So I can actually still go for 9 dB, which will give me a lot more headroom later on. So that should be good. Now you just want to name these real quick, drum. Because on the MPC, you definitely want to be naming stuff or it's going to get very messy. Now we can move on to our sample. So now we could go to a different track, and I'm gonna just name this chops. And what we want to do is add a new drum program so we're not overlapping the first one. And we could just name this chops as well. Do shift and mute. Now what I like to do to my samples is to go to process, and you can actually turn down the gain, which makes it a lot easier to hear what you're trying to do with the drum break playing in the background. So this is not like for any mixing or anything like that. So I want to start somewhere in the beginning. So let's play it back.
it. That's it.
So I pretty much just chopped out like a half a bar. And then what I can do from here is just assign that. But instead of going to assign slice to pad, what I'm gonna do is go to make a new sample. So now I can still have my original sample and I can have my new chop sample, and it's gonna go to the program that I'm on. Press do it. So now you can see it right here. Now if we go to main, a cool thing you could do with one shots is use 16 levels. So let's just do that. And from here, we could just be melodic with the one shot. So let's just get out a melody. We could just even close out and still have it right here. So I like that. And what we can do is just turn that down real quick, maybe around like 4 dB. And then I just want to mix it a bit because with this sample as well, the highs are a bit piercing. And so let's go to a parametric EQ again. And I'm gonna just use the high and low cut, and I'm just gonna cut out a good amount. So maybe around 7,000. And I don't have to change the steep because it don't need to be that sharp. And with it off. And we can always bring back in our highs again. Another plugin that I would like to use is the air flavor, just to give that lo-fi touch to it, or that vinyl touch. And we could go to harmonics, go to air flavor pro. And I'm just gonna go to blend so I can see the whole screen. And the preset that I like to use is the Kai 1710. And then I could just mess with the low pass a bit, turn that down. Let's just hear it. So it's giving it that grit, but I don't want it to be changing pitch, so I'm gonna take it off of pitch. And I kind of just want to bring back the distortion a bit. And for the vinyl, I also just want to pull it back up. I don't want it to be so present. That's sounding a bit better. And I'm also gonna wanna put this a little bit more in mono. So I'm gonna turn down the width a bit. Now, to bring the sample more into your face, you can use a delay or a reverb. I'm gonna just go with a delay. And I like the dual dub delay. So that sounds nice, but obviously that's just way too much, so we could bring back the mix a bit. So it gives it that sense of reverb. So this is a very cool delay that I like to use. And what we can do is just come up with another variation of our chops. So I like to go to the pencil tool in the drum program section and do duplicate the track. And now I have another chop program with the effects on it, so I don't have to do the effects again. And then I could just make my own variation. So I could just name this chop 2 while we're at it. And then we could go to our mutes and just mute out the first chop. And then we can make another variation. But I'm gonna go back to 16 levels. And I'm gonna actually put up the original pad to somewhere around 8/7. So when you do that, you could get lower notes. Now my original note is on pad 7. So now we can mess around with that. Yeah, that's hard. And then we could just do the same thing again, copy that program. Now, what I want to do for this one is actually use the first chop, but put it in half speed. And to copy the MIDI over, all you want to do is just do the pencil tool on the track section and just go to copy track. And we want to put it on track 4. That's where our new program is at. Press do it. So now when I go to track 4, I still want to switch the option to a new chop program. And then I just want to call this chop 3. And then now I can go into the mixer and add in that half speed. Yeah, that's hard. That's what I was saying. Like, you could just get so creative. You could even, resample it in Looper so you can have the whole sample and then add other effects on top of that. I don't even really have to go back in my sample. I could just keep coming up with variations. Now, I just want to make one more for like the intro. So copy it over again, duplicate the track. And I don't want the half speed, so I could just erase that from there. And this is our 4th chop. Yeah, that sounds good for the intro. So I'm gonna actually just go in and just name this like the intro chop. So now if we hold down main, this is a quick way to access all your tracks. Now we have 4 variations of our chops and our drums, and we could get into our bass now. So now we could just go to the next track and we could just label this bass. Now, there's 2 ways to go about doing the bass. I could just duplicate all the chop programs and then just put a low pass filter on it, meaning that we're just gonna cut out the highs and just keep that very low end sound. But the only thing about that, if you have a sample that has like a lot of instruments in it, you're still having that within your bass or your low frequency sounds. But for the most part, I'm just gonna use a plugin because I want that clean bass sound. So what we can do is just go to the plugin icon, and the bass line that comes with the MPCs is actually decent. So what we can do is just go to sub, and instead of going with the sine wave where it's more smooth, I want to go with the saw wave to get more of that grit sound. And the grit sound just means more harmonics. Now, before we even get into doing our bass, what I want to do is actually go to all the chop samples, and then I want to put them in a sub mix because I want to be able to cut out the low end in all the samples. So we could just go through, we got about 4 chops. And then submix 1. So now that I have all of those, I could just go into the mixer. If it's not already on your submix, you could just switch from up here and go to your submixes. And then I'm gonna just put a pair of EQ on it. And then turn on the low cut. It could be sharp if you want it. It don't really have to. Around 113 hertz is good because it's gonna allow the bass frequencies to come through and not clash so much. So with it off. So it's a slight difference, but that's all we need. Then we could go back to main and go to our bass. Then we can hit shift and 16 levels. And instead of trying to figure out the key of the sample, remember that we use 16 levels and we use different pitches. So it's not just gonna be in one key, at least for certain parts. So it's just best to play by ear, and it's good to keep training your ears. And the way you can do that is by listening to the low tone of your sample. So if we was to start off with our intro chop, we could take out the drums and then go back to pad perform. Let's just listen to the low tones of our sample. So it's 2 notes going dun 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 dun, and that's like a half step away. A half step away just means 1 note away. So right off the back from experience, I already know this is C sharp going into D. So let's just hear that. So that sounds cool, but what I want to do is actually go up an octave. So I could just hit the octave button. Now, you're probably thinking that's high, but we're gonna filter it and we're gonna do more with our sub bass. But for this sample, it's gonna be fairly easy because I played it in a arithmetic way. So all I have to do is just follow that pattern. Now what we can do is just go to our bass, and I could go to a low pass filter. And I'm just gonna bring up the resonance a bit, then drop down the frequency. Because I want it very subtle. It already got the grit because we're using the saw wave, so I don't need to add more harmonics. I still want the drums to kick through while the bass is more subtle in the background, but can still be heard. So it's just nice and tucked in the back. And then I just want to put like a stereo width plugin on it just to make sure that we're in mono. It sounds a little bit in stereo, so I just want to drop the width down to 0. Then I could apply a vintage effect on it, like an MPC 60, because like I said, an MPC 60 just give it more body to your sound. So now I just beefed it back up. And then what we can do is actually apply SP 1200 to get that brightness. So now I'm just gonna go through the rest of the chops and make a bass line. And the way I'm just gonna do that is just duplicate the bass program like I did our chops. So now we have all of our bass chops, and I don't want to make the video too long, but if you want to see me do an arrangement video on this, just leave a comment below and like and subscribe and share with your other producer friends. Until next time, peace.